right. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Tennessee Wildcast. I'm Doug Barkham. Todd St. John, we're going to introduce him in just a minute. Todd Mazoris over here. Mazoris. Todd's always helping. He's great. We got to get Todd on the camera. Of course, Jason Arbin here. I call him the carpenter. Anyway, Hey, we're getting our office built. This thing's going to go away pretty soon. This man's putting a lot of hours into what's going to be our future studio.
We're going to have a nice place to shoot this show, and we'll be there every week.
A lot of construction going over here at TWRA, including our office, but we're blaming all the noise on the other guys, right?
Yeah, it ain't our fault.
It is not our fault. Anyway, Jason's doing a great job. We're looking forward to being set up in the studio pretty soon, but we're still going to travel every now and then, get out there.
Yeah, I love getting out on the edge of the banks of the lakes and rivers and shooting shows out in the woods.
And we got a few wildlife management areas we might go to before it's all over.
We'll get out of this office every now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, midsummer, it's hot. We are in the dog days of summer, and I know it's hot outside, but the fishing is still great. You just go early, you go late, or you just go tough it out.
Go early, go late. Hit those small streams and creeks and wade or...
Subject today.
That is where I like to be in the summertime.
It is. There's a lot of fun things you can do in the summertime, and be careful out there boating. But in addition to boating, I also want to mention that you hunters, you're not all that far away. Just want to remind some folks.
We're mid-July and free fishing day. That's already passed. Free hunting day is coming up in August, so. Yeah,
it'll be here before you know it. You'll have the dove season come up pretty soon, and you'll have the early goose and duck seasons come up soon. And so you could be looking out on our website and finding out exactly what's going to come up in another 45 days or so, hunting season to get going. But right now we're going to talk some more fishing. That's why Todd's in here today. We got some photographs we want to show you. I want to show you one or two right now. Big old flathead catfish. This is something you can do in the summertime to stay cool, and this is a couple of folks that the older one there is Melvin McLaren. Melvin is a part-time boating officer for us, an enforcement guy. Great dad. That's his son Jackson on the other side, and they recently went grabbling, we call it.
Cool.
And they
hillbilly hand fishing.
That's what he calls it, hillbilly hand fishing. And they caught this. I think this one's the 50-pounder. They caught a 30 and a 50, and you actually swim below the water, and you reach in behind in some really dark places and pull these fish out. They catch them and release them. It's just a lot of fun.
I've done it one time. It's pretty fun. I caught a small one, but
what was your small one?
It was I don't know about like that.
Fun.
It was short.
Still fun.
Could you imagine?
We had to work it out of the hole, but it wouldn't even bite my hand, so I had to drag it
50 out. 50-pounders.
Yeah, and they get bigger
across the lake. Oh yeah, definitely.
Big old blues, but I guess that's the idea, isn't it, Jason? You stick your hand right in.
Stick your hand in there, and a lot of times they'll clamp down on it, but sometimes you got to work them out. But it's fun. It was interesting.
I know Melvin said it was the funnest fishing trip in his life, and we posted it out on Facebook. And if you go to the Facebook page, the TWA statewide Facebook page, and you scroll down far enough now, you'll see a video that Barry Cross shot of it being done. But it's really pretty fun.
And you can watch the trip I took a few years ago on our YouTube channel.
All right.
And it may be on TWRA TV. I don't know for sure, but it's out there.
Yeah.
Fun. Did you go to Old Hickory? Or?
Actually, we did. We were on Watts Bar.
Okay.
Watts Bar are these. This is off Old Hickory.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you got a good river system out there. These big old flathead catfish get in there. I guess blue catfish are common too, aren't they? They get really big. All right, let's show Ed Carter in a kayak because I want to talk about kayaks. We recently got out with our director, Ed Carter, and we did a little photo shoot with him, but it was all about kayaks.
Yep.
And of course, we recently had Matt Majors on here too. We just want to remind everyone another way to stay cool, another way to have a good time. Get out on a stream or out on a lake, and you can even take a dip if you want to. But want to remind everyone that these boats are just like all other boats. You got to have the life jackets with you. If you run them at night, you got to have your lights on those things.
Right.
And that's what Ed was doing with us. And we just want to remind folks as this continues to grow in popularity, that you got to do all the things legal, right, Todd?
That's right.
Just a safety message, and and sunscreen and big brim hats aren't
this
too bad
time
either.
of year. You're right, Jason.
Middle of July, sunscreen's a good thing.
Yeah, it's got the right idea with a fishing rod too.
Does.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, you caught some fish that day.
Cool.
Sunscreen is important, Jason. You don't want 25 years from now all that stuff start popping up on your skin. And I know got a lot of old friends that they're having to get all that taken off because they didn't know 30 years ago that the sun was baking them like it is. So remember that and wear that sunscreen. Don't take but a second to get it on. All right, anything else?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right. Well, we'll have a lot of current events.
Get into this
soon.
Todd St. John here. He's got a lot of info for us, I believe.
He does. He wrote. Todd's always writing notes. Todd's been on with former radio show I did with me many times, and Todd's always interesting. He's the reservoir manager we call it a manager for, but he's a fisheries biologist over everything in Middle Tennessee, much like Tim Broadbent we had on here recently, and you're over Middle Tennessee.
Right.
So that means over all the streams and all the lakes and all the rivers.
Well, in a way, I guess, we've got streams biologists, we've got reservoir biologists, so those guys are out there pretty much every day and have their finger on the pulse. But yeah, they convey what they pick up in their electrofishing or netting or whatever to me, so I try to stay on top of it as well.
Well, you've been there. I mean, you've worked your way through the ranks. Todd was out on reservoir biologist for a long time, Priest, Old Hickory, Cheatham here in Middle Tennessee, and he also was hatchery manager when Normandy Hatchery opened in Middle Tennessee. Oh gosh, 20 years ago now?
Yeah, I think that was like 1993.
Hard to believe.
23 years.
Hard to believe. And we're going to talk about Normandy some today because it's a growing hatchery, and Springfield Hatchery is an old hatchery that's growing. We'll discuss them and what's going on with them.
All right.
But first, let's discuss a couple of things. I want to talk about walleye, and I want to talk about crappie.
All right.
Two fish that are exciting, that fishermen love to chase. And let's talk about crappie first. What's going on with crappie here in Middle Tennessee?
Well, we've got some really good crappie fisheries traditionally. Percy Priest has always been one of the better crappie fisheries in the state, and that's in kind of the north part of Middle Tennessee. And then Woods Reservoir in the south.
Woods, of course,
has always been a really good white crappie fishery. And then Normandy Reservoir, that's a little different in that we stock black-nosed black crappie annually in there to provide a really consistently good fishery that's not as variable as some of the others. I guess naturally those crappie year classes are strong when we have wet springs, above average rainfall, and so 2010, you remember that was the big flood year.
Yeah.
And you would think that there would be a point where it would be excessive, but that was a huge crappie year class, and which that's out of the system now. It takes about 3 years for them to recruit to harvestable size, or that 10-inch mark. So, but unfortunately, the past couple years, we've had dry springs, and so we haven't had the strong year classes that we really need to produce those exceptional crappie fisheries. So we'll be crappie fishery cycle, and it'll be fine. We've still got some reproduction, but it won't be some of those years that you remember that you went out and you caught 2 fish on every cast. Yeah,
that's actually from a trolling trip that I took a few years ago. They were everywhere.
Right now, that's kind of I'm speaking more for Percy Priest, the north end here. Woods Reservoir, for whatever reason, had a strong 2014 year class. So this next year, 2017, it'll be a great crappie fishery there.
Crappie fishing is always about cycles, Todd.
Right.
And it's also about being able to adjust if you're a fisherman and go to another lake.
Right.
It may not be 20 minutes away. It may be 45 or an hour away.
Right.
But just go to where the fish are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what you have to do. All fisheries cycle, and to know where to go for the best results at whatever point in time, that's key.
Some of the shots that Todd was throwing up there were crappie this long.
Yeah.
That's how you find out what's good from year to year. Is that correct?
It is. That's correct. Each October we set what we call trap nets, and we catch young of the year fish, age 0 fish that were spawned in that spring. We're out in October, so as you saw, they're usually a couple inches long, and so that's how
I was just thinking you fish in October, Jason.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you were just measuring your fish you caught that day. That one, is that you were making sure it wasn't 10 inches or whatever? What's the legal take?
Yeah. So the catch rate that we have in those trap nets is how we index year class strength. We know if we catch a certain number, we've got a strong year class.
So a 3-inch fish, in your case, that's a trophy. You want to see all those you can, right? And that's how you tell.
That's exactly right.
So when it's
so accurate. It's through all the years that we've done it. It's a very good indicator of.
Some folks might be thinking, what about your hatcheries? And why can't you, during the bad years, can't you go into an Old Hickory Lake, which is a big river system? Why can't you go in and supplement them and make that just as good? Right.
That's a very good question, and it is something that we have tried in the past, and it's there are some limitations to, like Old Hickory, 22,500 acres, and we just don't have the pond space to produce enough to stock at a rate that we can really make a difference in some of these big systems, as opposed to like a Normandy reservoir that's 3,000 acres. We can stock that thing and provide great fishing.
And that brings up, that's a great option. Normandy, the fishermen down there catches great big black-nosed black crappie, and that's just about all we raise anymore, isn't it?
It is.
That way you can sort of tell how productive they are with the marker on the nose.
We know that they came from the fish hatchery, exactly.
Okay.
So.
But a 3,000-acre reservoir can make a tremendous difference. And go down there and during a low year and stock it, maybe put a little more in it, or do you stay the same?
Well, Normandy, for whatever reason, in recent years, we've had no natural reproduction. That crappie fishery is totally dependent on what comes out of the hatchery. So yeah, those we know that we go in and stock somewhere around 100,000 black-nosed black crappie annually, and we can produce those results that are consistently good.
If you don't know Normandy, it's a small lake in southern Middle Tennessee, and around the community or city of Normandy, not far from Tullahoma, right? Winchester.
Tullahoma, Manchester.
Mm-hmm. Tim's Ford's down there, Normandy's down there, Woods Reservoir's down there. So there's two really good crappie lakes you can go to anytime. What about Tim's Ford?
Tim's Ford is pretty much dependent on hatchery crappie as well, the black-nosed crappie stockings. But it's still a good crappie fishery. So
okay, so you got all the choices in the world.
Right.
Normandy Hatchery. I wish I'd thrown a photograph in here because it's a great place of where we produce fish that you started in, you said, in 1993. How big a hatchery is it now, and how important is this to the overall fish, not just in Middle Tennessee, but other parts of the state?
Yeah, it's critical. I guess more fish are produced at Normandy Hatchery than any other of our hatcheries in the state. And right now we have about 23.5 acres of production ponds, but we're building on as we speak, and 8 more acres, which will make a big impact.
Outstanding.
But they probably at least probably more than half of the production goes to other regions, not just in Middle Tennessee.
Right, and Todd's got some video of where Barry Cross went over and shot some walleye production, which I want to talk about too. Walleye being produced there, but the way I recall from all the work you do, there's a progression that takes place. Something you start. Usually it's walleye or sauger early in the spring or late winter, and it works its way, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we go and collect the brood fish when they would spawn naturally in the wild, and walleye start it all off. Usually second week in March, we'll go collect the brood walleye and bring back and spawn those, and then we roll to sauger next. And at that time, there's different culture techniques, and those walleye sauger are spawned indoors kind of manually, whereas a crappie, we still would put the brood fish in a pond and go that route. So yeah, crappie kind of come in third, and then we've got hybrid striped bass, and get into striped bass production in May, and then largemouth bass, we kind of are in that pond production method as well. And I guess lastly would be channel catfish is what would spawn last.
And channel cats, are they mostly for our state lakes?
They are our agency lakes. That's exactly right. We stock them annually at about somewhere around 50 per acre of fish that are somewhere 8 inches and larger.
Okay, what do you think these extra 8 ponds are going to do? How much will they? Did I say it right?
You
8
did.
Ponds.
What
kind of production would it increase? More walleye, more crappie, more? Or all the above? More
That's
catfish?
a good question. At this point, I don't know that we really know. Our allocation changes annually based on needs. So, it'll help a lot. It's about we could raise. We double crop those ponds where we'll go in like an early crop of walleye, and then sometimes we'll follow up with striped bass. So, you could potentially raise 75,000 to 100,000 fish in each pond.
So. Oh, that's outstanding. So you start with sauger, walleye, back in February, March. and it ends with stocking of crappie in about October, November. Is that correct?
Right, in November. That's exactly right.
It's a long year for those hatchery
Oh,
workers.
gosh, that's a hard job. It really is.
Well, you
It's,
know, you did
yeah,
it. It
It's
is
7
hard.
days a week.
Springfield Hatchery, I do want to mention them because
Uh-huh.
that's an old hatchery that's also had some renovation done on it, and it's
Right.
it's like a two-man project over there. Those guys work their tails off. At
Oh, they
Springfield
really
Hatchery.
do. Yeah, it's very productive. As a matter of fact, today they're harvesting hybrid striped bass pond, and it'll go to Percy Priest. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that happens in summertime, right?
Right.
That's when you put those fish out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they produce walleye, sauger, Florida bass, striped bass, hybrid striped bass. Very diverse hatchery as well. They
Okay.
do a great job.
Why are most fish that stock? Do you have an image if you don't work at a wildlife agency that when you're stocking fish this big? You know,
Yeah.
that's the image you would probably have if you're not working here. But the fact of the matter is, except for a few catfish and maybe a couple fish here, most
Rainbow
of them
trout.
are rainbow
Yeah.
trout.
Uh-huh.
Most of them are about this big.
They are small.
Why is that?
Well, we found that it takes a pretty high number of fish to make an impact in a reservoir, and we just can't produce that number at that size. And a lot of fish become piscivorous, meaning that they convert from plankton to fish as food at a point around that 3-inch size, and so that's when we stock them in a reservoir so that they can feed on threadfin shad or
And not each
gizzard
other.
shad. Exactly.
Okay, and is there also a chance if you keep them in there till they try to get larger, there's disease factors or
Yeah,
just
it's mostly
really
predation and just the limitations
expense.
of us providing a food that can make them grow at a rate that they could grow in a
Okay.
reservoir.
So it's a numbers game. If you
Uh-huh.
put in 200,000, you know a percentage of them are going to make it. Is
Right.
that pretty right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And across the state, Todd, not trying to put you on the spot because you don't work in East Tennessee or West Tennessee, but are there millions upon millions of fish stocked during any given year?
We do stock millions of fish, and
Now,
I
that's
can't
probably just
call
out-
the
well, yeah.
total hatchery production across the state as far as. That's a good question. I should know that. but
No,
I can't
no,
pull that one up.
not across state, but even just Middle Tennessee. Flint, I mean, with your hatchery, Springfield and Normandy, you get millions out of there just in Middle
Right.
Tennessee, correct?
We do.
All right. Yeah, it's a lot of work that goes on there. One of those fish coming out that Todd was showing a minute ago is that walleye. Tell us about walleye. Where are they in Middle Tennessee these days, and what's the future of 'em in this part of the state?
All right. Yeah, walleye are another fish that were originally, a big river fish that before all these, the rivers were impounded by dams, so we impacted their spawning habitat, and so they're, it's critical that we augment with hatchery production. But we Normandy, as you know, great walleye fishery.
It is. Again, a little
I think
3,000
that's
acre lake. Yeah.
Exactly it, right there. Timms Ford is another in Middle Tennessee. But we've recently started stocking the Cumberland system, Old Hickory and Cheatham, with more walleye to kind of see what impact we can make on that fishery.
Well, they're competing with sauger that are in there. They're related to each other, look a little bit alike, and we do a lot
Right.
of work with sauger. But
Right.
walleye, are you seeing that walleye might be a better river source than sauger, or am I correct?
No, I wouldn't prioritize one over the other. I guess the hope is that maybe we can, they both were in those systems at one time, and maybe we can, just provide a fishery for both. And
Yeah.
they have a little different habits, as sauger, that fishery in late winter, early spring, right below Cordell Hole Dam is great. They all come and congregate there, but it's not quite the same for walleye. They're more spread out through the hotel water, which
It does. It seems like the most active time to catching sauger is in that cold time of year where you can catch walleye in May, June.
Right.
That's when they get pretty active. Not that they run up in the headwaters when it's pretty cold too, though. That's when you collect your brewfish, right?
It is. It sure is.
All right.
So we still stock both, and we're not going to quit on either species, but just to hope kind of provide a better walleye fishery than we've had in the past.
A lot of folks don't know that the world record walleye came from Old Hickory Lake, right
Right.
here in Middle Tennessee, 25 pounds, caught back in the 50s, I think.
Right, yeah.
And
That's
we may
the
never
ones
see that again, but
Who knows?
knows?
Al Bartolotto, our krill clerk on Old Hickory. He's seen some big walleye here in the past couple
He
of years.
makes me so mad when he
There's
calls me
some
and tells me
huge
that.
ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, they are. Who knows if they get 25 pounds? But Al will occasionally contact me too because he knows I would love to catch one that's longer than that. But
Yeah.
he's telling me about 10 and 12 pounders being caught out of there in the last
pretty
few
common.
years. Those
So,
guys that get out and stay after them.
They
Well,
know where
find
to
'em.
go.
What's the technique for catching a walleye and a sauger? Is it similar?
It is, I'm not an expert at all at it, but a lot of, fishing on the bottom, whether it be, with a lead head jig tipped with a minnow
Yeah,
or
very
just
popular.
some type of plastic. But yeah, the techniques are similar.
And they're real similar in the way they look. I mean,
They are, yeah.
what's the big differences in them?
I guess the biggest difference would be these would be two walleye here, but the sauger have patches on the side that,
Yeah.
you can see these dark
Little light there,
blotches.
but yeah, patches and
They're
the
both
walleye-
beautiful fish.
They are.
though. They
The
really
walleye has
are.
a little white dot on its tail, though, right?
Right, that's
Okay.
exactly right. Now, in tributary lakes and even in the mainstream lakes, the walleye, it seems like they catch them a lot in the summertime, trolling with lures and even using the night crawler harness. But so, yeah, they will suspend maybe a little bit more than what you would think that a sauger would, I guess. So, sauger are more bottom oriented.
And watch those teeth, right?
Exactly.
teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't lip one.
Yeah, lipping will get you in trouble.
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
you might do it once.
Yeah, one time, and
you would remember that.
You will learn it. All right. Well, they're a great fishery. They're going to be around for a long time, right?
They are.
And I even had Richard Sims send a photograph recently over in Chattanooga where they were starting to catch some walleye over there. So these things have spread out some and very popular across the
Yeah.
state.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
East Tennessee, some of those upper East Tennessee, French Broad River, and some of those, they're tributaries. They
Right.
do well with their walleye
Oh, they
over
do.
there.
They're great.
So we're blessed to have a state that's got so much diversity in it for these fish. All right, let's talk a little bit about stream fishing.
Stream fish.
This is the
Man,
time of year.
It is the time.
I love July and August.
Get out and wade. Find some
Absolutely.
shade.
And it's not just that; they bite good.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They bite really good. And Todd, we're starting to put a few ramps on some of them. This is a photograph where we floated a few years ago, but we're putting some ramps on some of the smaller bodies of waters
We
to make
are.
it more accessible. But you still need to get, if you don't have that kind of access, if you're going to a stream that you're wading, you need to get permission. Okay,
Definitely,
You
definitely.
can't just walk in a stream, unfortunately. But you do have to. You have to get permission. And how good is our stream fishing? How good is our creek fishing in,
I think
in
it's
Middle
great.
Tennessee?
Yeah, all these. We've got so many productive. The Duck River, the Elk River, the Red River, the Buffalo, the Harpeth. You can go on and on. You don't have to go far at all.
And then the tributaries off of those bodies
Oh,
of
yeah,
water, the ones
yeah.
that you walk up and you catch fish like this right here, these rock
Right.
bass and these smallmouth, and they this size and larger, and they're just so much fun.
They are. They are.
Light tackle, right?
Yeah. What about stone rollers?
Stone rollers, oh man,
That's almost like cheating.
it
isn't
is. Stone rollers, a minute in the creek, right? And
Yeah.
it goes up to 3 or 4 inches, and you can throw a net on those things. I'll have to show you that sometime.
Oh,
And
I'll show you how to catch them. You get
okay,
me,
I'll show you how to catch
you
the
give me
bait.
the bait. I'll show you how to catch the fish.
We'll do that. That's a deal.
That is fun, and
That
now
is a
is
deal.
the time for
It-
sure. And there
it
are
is.
so many places to go. That,
It is. It absolutely is the best time right now to catch creek fish.
Right.
And you go early in the year, you can catch some nice smallmouth in the spring, and those rock bass are really easy to catch. But this time of year, they're all ready to eat.
They are.
And
They are.
if you don't catch live bait, there's all kinds of baits. That little rebel crawl, if you know what that is, go
Yeah.
to a local store. That'll catch every fish in there. Those little inline spinners that you like throwing.
Yeah, and those little flukes are great too. Just
Yeah.
weightless and just
Yeah,
kind
kinda
of mimic a
finesse.
minnow.
We did creek a couple of years ago with a young guy that was using that fluke, and
Yep.
he put on a show, didn't he?
He caught a pretty good sized smallmouth.
He did, and we all caught fish that day.
Yeah, we did.
Catching this stuff. So anyway, great time to go. If you want to learn more about creeks, the way that I did early in my career was got a book called County Maps, and it's put out by the Department of Department of Transportation. Black map, black line drawings in it. Make sure you get one that's updated, and you can find every creek there is and every piece of access.
Right.
But do a little scouting before you go. I went once with a guy named Norman Bates, and he said, "I'll pick you up right here beside the road." And when we got there, way after dark, the road was 100 feet above the creek. So anyway, you got to do a little bit of scouting even if you have the map. But that's a good map
Yeah.
to get you
The
going.
access sites on our website as well.
For those rivers you're telling about, and you guys are working on access all the time, right?
We are. We're getting ready to start a project on the Upper Red River off of Porter's Chapel Road, and so yeah, that would you could float downstream to the new ramp that we built at Adams.
Okay.
This is up in Robertson County.
This is on the website, tnwildlife.org. You find it there. Okay.
Yeah, several opportunities. You can even float from Adams down to Port Royal, and really good fishing, smallmouth, rock bass.
And Elk River has some access on it down in Giles County area.
Sure does. Last week we floated from Elkton down to, we have a ramp at Vito, and it's a really nice ramp. So that was a great float. Beautiful river, lots of smallmouth, and we caught everything.
Everybody's wishing they had your job right now, Todd. Also, speaking of access, and again, as Todd said, you can go on our website that Jason always tells you about too and find it. But there's also access to a lot of lakes if you don't have a boat. If you don't have a kayak or whatever, there are some access on Percy Priest and Old Hickory. Where are they?
Yeah, fishing piers. We've got two kind of bank fishing coves on Priest at Stewart Creek, which is close to Smyrna.
Wonderful place.
Oh yeah, that is a great place.
You caught a 6-pound largemouth out of there a few years back?
I did. It was 21 1/4-inch long.
Wow. Standing on the bank right
On
there
the
at
bank.
Stewart's Creek.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we load them up with fish attractors and fishing piers, fishing platforms. There's a paved path that goes around. So,
Yeah, if you go around that bend and on the other side, in that parking area, that's where I caught it.
Yeah.
What'd you catch it on?
She was bedding right there. It was a little crankbait. I forget what.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Viverett Creek, I guess, on the opposite side of the lake. And
that's a wonderful creek. It's a good crappie creek, too.
It is. In the springtime, man, that's unbelievable. I'm not sure why they all come in there. But
They do. Though. And they catch them right off that whole area, not just off the pier there, but that whole bank.
Right.
But that's again, you can find all these access areas across the state on our website, right? All these piers that we built. And Old Hickory, we'll mention it real quick. Say Saunders.
Yeah, Saunders Ferry, and over on the opposite side at Cedar Creek, close to Mount Juliet. So, yeah, those are two great fishing piers.
And Todd, being the smart guy is throwing up a State Lakes photograph, so I'll see it. And he wants me to remind all of y'all that we also have State Lakes. This was taken on Williamsport with my friend Ronnie a couple years back. But name some of the State Lakes.
Of the catfish that we've stocked. That's about the size that we've stocked.
One that liked lures. He caught it on that lure, believe it or not. But anyway, tell us, name the lakes real quick here in Middle Tennessee.
Okay, yeah, we've got Marrowbone, Bedford, Williamsport, of course, Laurel Hill, VFW, spread from north to south. The majority of them have concessionaires, so it's kind of you can bring they're family oriented. The concessionaires have everything you need as far as bait, tackle, food, you name it.
Okay, there's one
boats.
Bedford that's a little different. It doesn't have a concession on it, so be prepared before you go.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they're all in our guide. They're all in our fishing guide. You can find out what you need on there, and you can take big boats on all of them, but can't run the motor on all.
That's correct. Yeah, you just can't turn the engine on the majority of them. So yeah.
Okay, and a lot of them you can rent. Marrowbone here in Jolton and Davidson counties, it's a nice place to go fish. And those big old lakes, Laurel Hill Lake down in Lawrence County is a wonderful place to go to. I don't want to leave anybody out. Williamsport is also, it's got 4 lakes on it. One is specifically for kids, correct?
Right, Whippoorwill.
Correct. Yeah. And all of them are great fishing. What do y'all stock in there annually in these lakes?
Well, at Williamsport, all of them we stock catfish annually. That's the goal. And Williamsport, we do stock some hybrid striped bass. You know, there were some larger gizzard shad that were in there that came out of the Duck River, and so that kind of
that's interesting. That's a rarity then.
It is.
Putting a hybrid
people love
like
to catch those things.
And they're managed a lot of them for big bass, right? They
right.
have slot
That's
limits
correct.
in them.
Some of them have, like at Williamsport, 20-inch minimum size limit. Others like Bedford and Marrowbone have a 14 to 18-inch protected length range. So yeah.
Okay, and also all that's in the guide, and you want to look at that before you go. Right. All right, Todd. What else? We've got about a minute left. Anything else you want to tell me about what's going on here in the Mid-State?
Oh gosh.
And we did not touch. All Todd could talk. We'll have you back. But anything else right off the bat?
Bass fishing should be great in the upcoming years. We've had some really strong recent year classes. I think it's been a great year this year, but it should continue. We're planning on building a new fishing pier on Normandy Reservoir at Barton Springs.
Great.
So that'll be there's not a lot of bank fishing access on Normandy at all. So that's our goal there, to provide that. So we'll hopefully finish that before next spring.
All right. All the lakes in the Mid-State are either TVA or Corps of Engineers, mostly Corps of Engineers except for Woods Reservoir.
Right.
And that's actually owned by Air Force?
Air Force.
Okay, and we work with them to manage the lake.
Right.
There's a great bluegill fishing video out there about
Where were
on
we-
Woods Reservoir.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I know. You
To
caught
watch
more
that.
fish than I did. Todd, you're great. You're always good.
Thank you.
We didn't begin to touch Todd's knowledge. We'll get you back sometime and get more specific about some lakes, okay? But
Yeah.
first appearance on Tennessee Wildcast, and we appreciate you coming on to it.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
yeah. Thanks
Enjoyed it.
everybody for joining us this week. We're out there on tnwildlife.org. You can watch, listen. It's all right there. All the past shows, all the future shows will be there. And don't forget to hashtag your photos, TNWildlife. And
Yep.
thanks for joining us.
Todd, thank you for your work. Great job. Thank you, Todd. See you. Bye.